Hello, and welcome to another reading at the 2021 Easton Book Festival. Thanks to Book and Puppet and to the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group for hosting this event. I'm Christopher D. Ochs, author of fantasy, weird tales, and science fiction. In this video, I'll be reading from my latest YA urban fantasy horror, My Friend Jackson. I'm pleased to report that Jackson is a finalist in Indies Today's Best Books of 2020. The story so far. Jasmine is the new girl at her inner city high school, and even though it's better than the projects, it's still pretty rough. Her basketball teammates see her as a threat, and several of her other classmates are jealous or just don't like her. Jasmine has already been the target of a few cruel hazings, but when Nevi's boyfriend, Caleb, has the hots for Jasmine, she makes a break for home. Unfortunately, Jasmine is not quite familiar with her new neighborhood. And with that, we'll begin. Past the homeless who shuffled their carts of ill-smelling treasure, past addicts with unfocused eyes, swimming in the throes of their chemical dreams, past the comrades whose greedy darting stares searched for their next score, Jasmine hastened her pace. Her momentary burst of speed soon dropped back down to the fastest limp her side permitted. A shot rang out, half a block behind her. A stampede of yelling strangers forced her forward. The press of the crowd became stifling when two row homes ahead, four prostitutes scarcely older than herself brought traffic to a honking standstill. The yowls of their hair-pulling, cloth-tearing catfight vaulted over the gasps and cheers of gathering spectators. Three men tumbled out of a bar directly in front of Jasmine. Shouting obscenities, two of them threw drunken punches at each other and a bouncer twice their size. A second gun blasted thunderously behind her. Jasmine pinched out a yelp of surprise when a nearby window chirped with a ricochet. Jesus, was I ever wrong? This place is just as bad as the freaking projects. Blocked from front and behind, Jasmine dodged into the nearest side street. She hustled without breaking into anything faster than a brisk walk, squinting to adjust her vision to the hungry darkness that blotted out the neon behind her. Diving into an alley's not the safest, but it's better than that crap back there. Jasmine quick marched, weaving through obstacle courses of garbage cans, dumpsters, and scampering rats. Backtracking from a dead end and trying to keep her bearings in the labyrinth of brick, she hoped the next street looked familiar. It didn't. She tried the next street that promised it would point her in the right direction. I gotta get back to the bus route before another detour gets me totally lost. Halfway down the alley, her ears pricked up at the sound of a footstep. Before she could turn around, her world went white, blinding with pain. Jasmine doubled over in the back doorway of a Chinese food joint, gasping for air between two dumpsters, reeking of rotting meat and burnt soy sauce. Her ribs were aflame, and the back of her skull felt like it had been split by a jackhammer. She reached for her searing scalp, and her backpack tumbled off her shoulder, clanging against the dumpster. Bitch, I told you to stay away from Caleb. He's mine. Jasmine gathered her rubbery legs underneath her to stand, steadying herself against the nearest dumpster. Her vision returned, rippled with wet blurs that might have been tears, snot, or blood. In the long shadows cast by distant streetlights, Nevaeh's face burned out of the darkness, livid with rage. Jasmine's abs clenched, trying to squeeze behind her spine when she recognized the signs of a girl prepped for a throwdown. Earrings gone, hair tied tight behind her head, face slicked with a sheen of Vaseline to deflect blows and scratches. What the hell do I do now? The oversized, heavy steel ring emblazoned with a prominent gold initial C no longer hung from her necklace. It was on the middle finger of her Nevi's fist. A tuft of Jasmine's frizzy hair dangled from it. That ring, it ain't her bling, it's Caleb's. The tendons of Nevaeh's knuckles quivered taut as bridge cables. She shoved Jasmine backward against the wall with her free hand. Jasmine whimpered as her head thumped against brick. The world's loudest gong clanged in her ears. Her legs buckled, helpless against the ground that seemed to spin around her. She kept her eyes glued on Nevaeh's burning skull, the only thing that kept her consciousness from tumbling upside down. Jessamyn's accusing stare only infuriated Nevaeh even more. Can't you take a fucking hint? Don't you know you ain't wanted, ho? Our team don't want you, Caleb don't need you, and I sure as shit want you gone. Nevaeh raised her fist again. Die, bitch! Putting her full weight behind it, she swung, aiming Caleb's ring straight for Jessamyn's face. A glistening blur of dark umber shot out from behind the other dumpster. It wrapped around Nevaeh's head, and a muffled scream flooded Jessamyn's ears. Nevaeh clutched at the glistening, slimy blob, but her attempts to claw the suffocating mass away from her face proved futile. A split second later, Nevaeh's whole body snapped away like a rag doll. Caleb's heavy steel and gold ring clattered on the asphalt. Nevaeh's strangled gurgling made Jessamyn's gut twist. Somewhere behind and beyond the dumpster came a slurping rasp, as if from a giant bowl of ramen. The sound of tearing cloth and rending flesh was followed by the sickening crack of bone. Jessamyn curled into a ball, raw terror forcing her knees into her chest. Her feet twitched with every shallow, ragged breath. She clamps her head between her hands, but the horrific sounds still reached the spinning pit of her darkest fears. The dull memory of the streets had reclaimed the alley, and her sense of up and down returned. Righting herself against one dumpster, she wiped the stinging sweat and tears from her eyes and squinted into the murky light. What the fuck just happened? One timid step from between two dumpsters, then another. Jessamyn peeked around the reeking metal containers. Emboldened by the silence, yet expecting Nevaeh to lunge out of the darkness, she took another step into the center of the alley, backpack in hand as a makeshift shield. But she was alone in the shadows. Nevaeh, Jessamyn said tentatively, what the hell am I doing? Do I really want to find her? Or whatever that thing was? The faraway rumbling of engines was the only reply. She called the name of her attacker again, her throat constricting tighter with each syllable. Something that mimicked a grotesque voice slithered above her head, hissing like wet leather on a griddle. Jessamyn craned her neck, peering in the direction of the nightmare sound. Nothing but brick wall, dumpsters, rusted and crumpled gallon containers of cooking oil, and garbage bags piled high into mounds of uncollected trash. The voice scraped out a hideous rasp that came close to speech from some horrible mouth that was never meant to form human words. Ma lin zi kulin da Jasmine. Well, that was that. Jessamyn seems to be in quite a pickle. Has she been rescued, or will she be eaten as well by the invisible monster? My Friend Jackson is available at my website or at Amazon.com, but it would be best if you ask for it at your local independent bookstore, like Book and Puppet. I hope you enjoyed this little peek into My Friend Jackson, and I hope to talk to you soon.